My Afarakanu and Afarikaitnu African Black family. Welcome to Sacred Spaces Advanced School of Ancestral Communication. I am Queen Carlenia, and I want to talk to you all today. We're here to protect. We're here to protect and to share information about our identity. I want to talk to you today about psychiatry because many of us don't understand um, the origin. We don't understand our own origins, much less the origin of these organizations that are designed to literally suck the life out of our people. I can remember back in the day, Borders. It was Borders Bookstore. That was a long time ago. Um, Borders Bookstore in downtown Silver Spring. I was in that store, and I noticed these young girls and young boys. They looked like they were about 12 or 13 years old. And I was in the metaphysical section, and I noticed them. They kept looking at books on witchcraft and things like that. And so I was always curious. At least that's what I thought it was back then. And when they left, I made sure and walked outside the store because I wanted to talk to them. And I remember they were telling me about their different experiences. One young girl, she told me her little sister had an imaginary friend, and the little sister was the only one that could see the imaginary friend, like a doll or something. But anytime they went anywhere, she would ask her mom to put her little friend's seatbelt on, just like she did for her. And this particular day, they were going to a little girl's birthday party, and they had already started. They were just blocks away from the location where they were going, and her little sister realized that she had forgotten her friend, and her mom tried to talk her out of it and say, well, we're already here, you'll see her when you go home. And she was insistent, and so the mom went back home and got her friend, buckled her in and everything. Listen, when they got back to the house where the party was, there was it was chaos. I think the police were there, and two or three people had gotten shot. There was some guy, I don't know what was wrong with him, walking down the street and was trying to insist on coming to this little child's birthday party. Nobody knew him. And when the adults would not let him in, he got angry and he began to shoot. The so saying this to say that the little sister's friend literally saved their lives, because if they did not turn back around, they would have been there. It would have been about the time they were pulling up that guy would have come, and they would have probably gotten hurt in that incident. As we continue to talk, they shared other experiences, but as we continue to talk, somehow the conversation turned to um, psychiatric drugs. And they didn't even realize they were all friends, but they didn't even realize that they were all on these psychiatric drugs. And their little sisters and brothers were also on those drugs. Now, these children seem to have lived with their grandparents. So I don't know what the situation was with their own parents, but they lived with their grandparents. And one of the things that they said was, they would take the medicine, but only when they knew there was an appointment for, I think it was social services or something, because they would test their blood or test their urine. And if they did not see evidence of these drugs in their system, they were going to take them away from their grandmother. Um, and so in talking to me, these children were shocked to learn that each other was on drugs, as well as their younger sisters and brothers, who had no choice but to take these drugs. And these kids were little. I'm talking about their younger brothers and sisters, 4 or 5 years old, you know. um, So, fast forward to today, I want to just share with you some facts about psychiatry, and then I'm going to leave a link. I'm going to leave a link with this message so that you can learn a little bit more. And this information comes from cchr.org. And I'm trying to remember what that stands for. Citizens Commission on Human Rights. That's what it stands for. And I have a handout here. And this handout says mental health screening leads to overdiagnosis and overdrugging of African American children and teens. Overdiagnosis is a known consequence of all screening, including depression and ADHD. I'm telling y'all, they're making these things up: ADHD, ADD, all of these things, um, because they give you a diagnosis. Guess what? They can sell you a medication. Screening for depression does not reduce teens' suicidal behavior. Recently, the American Psychiatric and American Psychological Associations admitted that racist theories have been entrenched in psychiatric and psychological practices for generations. As a result of the long term systemic racism still present in the mental health system, African Americans are excessively diagnosed with mental illness, given antipsychotic drugs, and committed to psychiatric facilities. African American youth need real solutions for anxiety and depression, not more psychiatric drugs and institutionalization. So, let me just share some facts about psychiatry. The late Dr. Thomas Sazaz, who was a professor of psychiatry emeritus, said psychiatry is probably the single most destructive force that has affected society within the last 60 years. Now, why would such an authority as this late professor make such a claim? As co founder of Citizens Commission on Human Rights, he documented psychiatry's harmful influence in our schools, courtrooms, legislatures, nursing homes, workplaces, and homes. So consider, I'm just going to share with you some of the facts. Since 1952, there has been a 234% increase in the number of mental disorders. From birth to grave, there is a quote unquote disorder that can be billed to treat. There are no blood tests, x rays, brain scans, or any other medical tests to confirm any of these mental disorders. Their criteria are based on psychiatric opinion only. Let's see. Researchers have identified 25 psychiatric drugs associated with violence, including physical assault and homicide. The shooters at Fort Hood Army Base and a Washington, D.C. Navy Yard were on psychiatric drugs. That Navy Yard shooting was around the corner from my house, and I was actually right there when as soon as I heard about it on the news, I went down there to make sure that people were okay. It was blocks away from my home. Psychiatry's theory that a brain based chemical imbalance causes mental illness was invented to sell drugs. So says Dr. Stephen Scharfstein, former president of the American Psychiatric Association. There is no clean cut lab test to prove the existence of a chemical imbalance in the brain. That's Dr. Mark Graff, also of the American Psychiatric Association. And he noted that the theory was probably drug industry derived. Despite pseudo scientific terms like chemical imbalance, you'll listen, because I know there are people that take these things to heart. Nobody really knows what causes mental illness, explained Dr. Sangavi of Harvard Medical School. There is no blood test or brain scan for major depression. No geneticist can diagnose schizophrenia. And Dr. Edward Drummond summed it up this way: first, no biological cause has been proven for any psychiatric disorder in spite of decades of research. So don't accept the myth that we can make an accurate diagnosis. Now, I'm going to stop right here. I'm sharing this information with you so that you can go and look this information up for yourself. If you're on psychotropic drugs, go and look and see what are the side effects, because the very thing that many of you are taking these drugs for, um, the drug actually causes the thing that you are trying to eliminate. You cannot, you cannot, you cannot medicate the spirit. And when it comes to having experiences that are invasive, hallucinations, schizophrenia, these types of different things that we experience, culturally it is a disalignment from our own soul, and that is a reality that we deal with because we're operating outside of our culture. But I want you to please, I'm not telling anybody to just stop taking these drugs. These are very powerful drugs, and oftentimes if you just try and stop on your own without your doctor's help, and something else to help you to navigate your experiences, it can make the situation worse. But I am leaving, I'm going to put a link right here, and I want you all to take a look at that link and share the information. Share the information. Many of our young mothers are being threatened to either medicate their children, and absolutely nothing is wrong with their children, to medicate their children. And if they don't medicate them, then they will be taken from them by I forgot what the agency is called, but the Child Protective Services. So we have to protect one another and share. Please share this information. Thank you.